Kroot flesh. Kroot flesh. Today we're talking about Kroot flesh and how to skin a Kroot. Now there are multiple ways to skin a Kroot, but today I'm going to show you a couple of different methods and a couple of different skin tones that you can use to give some variety to Kroot carnivores or your Farstalker kin bands. Without further intro, let's get on to it. To start, let's base coat the miniature using some Abaddon Black. Get this all over. Brush, spray, airbrush, doesn't matter how you do it. With that done, wait for it to dry. You should get something nice and crisp. First up, for the first Kroot, we're going to make a yellow Kroot using some Balor Brown as the base coat for the miniature here. And we're going to do a slap chop style method of dry brushing various shades of gray before using an Imperial Fist contrast. So we start out here with Administratum Gray. This is going to be the largest dry brush used. Onto some Celestial Gray, which is focused more on the higher up areas and the highlights of the miniature. Take care not to drown out the Balor Brown here. A final dry brush of Korax White is used on the extreme edges of the miniature, such as the knees, the back of the heels, and the toes. With that complete, the entire miniature was sprayed with Imperial Fist contrast. This can be brushed as well. I just find the spray to be, through the airbrush, to be a little bit more consistent and easier to do. We're going to let that dry before grabbing our dry brush again and some Flash Gits Yellow. And we're going to do an extreme highlight just over the knees and some of the heels and calves here to pick out the extreme highlights on these areas. It was looking a little bit too bright, so I gave it a Seraphim Sepia wash. I used this wash because it wasn't going to drown out the yellows, but it was going to take that brightness edge off, which I think worked out perfect here. If you want to see how I painted the rest of the Kroot miniature, you can see in this video here, linked somewhere here, how I do all the leather and the gun and the frills for various Kroot. As you can see, once finished with the leathers and the rest of the miniature, you get a really nice, distinct looking Kroot here. The yellow skin with all of its various tones, both high, mid, and low, looks really nice. I love this sculpt, and I'll come back later to do some freehand on the cape there. But for now, we got more Kroot to cover, so we're moving on. Here's one of the Kroot that I painted up in a green scheme the other day. So we're going to go over how we paint this really simple green Kroot skin tone. First up, base coat your miniature using Strachan Green. With the base coat dry, you might need to do too. Use Athonian Camo Shade to wash the entire skin tone, all the green, all over the miniature. Get it nice in the recesses, not too much that you're losing details, but enough that you're getting all your recess shades in. This is also going to tone the green down a little bit as well. Let it dry and you'll have something that looks very similar to this. But we're going to change that with a quick dry brush of Death Guard Green all over the skin tone. Make sure to keep the tone we just made in the recesses, such as the muscle lines and all that stuff, between the fingers, but make sure you dry brush all the surfaces. Once you paint everything else on the miniature, this is what you'll be left with. This is probably the easiest skin tone on this video, the easiest skin tone to do. Again, it's really just base coat, wash, dry brush, paint the rest of the miniature. But you get a really good result, a very classic Kroot result. The next few we're going to do are going to be very atypical Kroot. I figured I'd throw this in here for anybody who just wants a green horde of birdmen. Now, I have shown a rather intensive way of how to paint blue Kroot skin before in another video linked somewhere. For this method, we're going to do the exact same thing as we did the yellow Kroot. We're going to base coat with Rust Gray, the kind of rather dark grayish blue, and then we're going to dry brush Celestial Gray, Administratum Gray, and finally the Korax White over the miniature before the whole miniature gets sprayed or brushed with Pilar Glacier contrast paint. I will admit, I wasn't the biggest fan of how this turns out. I don't think this paint really does particularly well, or sorry, this contrast does well with the slap chop method, so What I'd actually recommend you do, and what I have done in other miniatures, is base coat with Celestial Gray, and then just give it 2 brush coats of the Pilar Glacier contrast. That will result in basically the same result as we get here, with significantly less fuss. You know, not every time you experiment you succeed. This was definitely one of those times where I kind of failed a little bit. But paint the rest of the miniature, and with that you'll be left with the following. Now, I quickly painted this one up off screen. Not a big fan of this particular mini overall. I think this was an experiment that just needed too many repaints and doesn't look as good as I thought. So this method of Celestial Gray followed by 2 coats of the Pilar Glacier I think works fantastic, and I'd recommend. This mini looked great. The skin tone was simple. So yeah, this is the way I'd go if you're painting Blue Kroot. Fourth and final, and probably my favorite, starts off with a corn red base coat all over the miniature. Just like with the yellow Kroot, we're going to go through various stages of dry brushing, starting from Administratum, going to Celestial, going to Corax White, throughout the entire miniature, focusing on areas that are going to be catching the light. With that dry brushing completed, we're going to use some ball red contrast paint and paint all over the entire miniature. You can use a brush. I'm using an airbrush for ease of use. We've got midtones, we've got highlights, and we've got our shadows. Now we just want to bring back some extreme highlights, similar to what we did with the yellow Kroot. So using some Evil Sun Scarlet, we're going to pick out the extremely lit sections of the miniature, such as the knees, the heels, and the thighs. After picking out all the details, you're left with this. I really do like the red skin Kroot. I think it fits with them being melee and ultimately, you know, feeding corn, but it also just looks really good. It looks very atypical. I love this scheme. But before we get on to the final reveals, I did want to give some bonus footage here of how I kind of do my capes. So typically I just kind of freehand various geometric drawings into them as per kind of like the stuff you see on the box art. For this guy, I started off with a base coat of Mephiston Red and just picked out a couple of triangles on the cloak. One starting on the bottom here that wraps around to the other side of the cloak, and then one on the front part of the chest that you'll see in the future clips here. So just pick that out and make sure you fill in these shapes fully with one nice tone. Again, we're going to the underside here to continue the triangle I created on the other side. This gives the pattern a feeling of like being a part of the fabric as opposed to just painted onto one side. So yeah, fill this in just like you did the other one. With that done, as well as picking out one on the front chest, I then took some corn red and layered it into the parts of the triangle that would be in the shadows or recessed. This will help give it some depth to the red. It's not just one tone. It looks like it's actually, you know, shaded by the folds in the fabric. Again, using the same tone, we're going to pick out most of the interior of this triangle here, giving it a nice, consistent, solid tone of corn red here. Finally, on the highlighted edges of the triangles, I would give it some Evil Sun Scarlet. I didn't want to completely replace the Mephiston Red. I still want the Mephiston Red to act as a mid-tone, but I do want to highlight areas where most of the light would be hitting the cloak with a lighter red. So that's what we're doing here. Don't worry if the lines between each tone looks a little bit jarring. The next step here, using a Reikland Flesh Shade wash, will help unify all these colors together. Only get it on the red part of the triangles and it will help make the transition less severe. With the triangles done, you can see that there's very clearly a shade, a highlight, and a mid-tone there. It looks fairly nice. It helps bring out the depth of the cloak. I will then follow this up with a quick dry brush on the black cloak of Thunderhawk Blue. That should have been done first, before going on to the Korax White step, of which I just kind of paint lines. I paint white lines around the triangles I made. I paint some white lines going through the triangles I made. Before eventually running the lines down to the other side of the cloak and intersecting with the inner triangle there. And then I also do something similar on the front triangle here. I just kind of outline it and then draw some lines going into the triangle from these, I guess you could call the border lines I've just drawn here. Should you have made any mistakes on the cloak, just take a Batten Black or whatever the base coat of your cloak is and just kind of fix it. Take care, fix your edges, make them straighter, go through and just kind of, fix your overspill here, such as I have in this crevice here. And there you have it, 4 different skin tones that you can use on your Kroot, whether it be the Farstalker kin band or the new Kroot hunting pack. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did, and enjoy these full grand reveal shots.